Sunday fun day, but without football, man, we miss football, right? I think that's the biggest thing right now is that, uh, I mean, yes, there's different types of football out there, but the we're talking about NFL, right? The National Football League. Uh, Gentlemen, how are we doing today?
Good,
Pretty
man.
good, man. Good, man. Couldn't be no better.
Yeah. So let's get right into it, man. We got a couple of things. Obviously we did see that there was the owners meetings, and during these times, that's where a lot of these things get we start seeing rule changes. Some get approved, some don't. And there were some that weren't approved, that there were some that were approved. I know we kind of briefly talked about a couple, right? I think we talked about how, hey, watch out. You're going to start seeing the number 0. And guess what? We've already seen some players already pick up the number 0. I think Calvin Ridley will go down in NFL history as the first player to wear number 0. I believe Harvey Wright, our very own Dallas Cowboys, Ron Curse, the leading free safety the safety that has become such an important role on that Cowboys defense.
Agent Zero, man. Agent Zero.
Yeah, he adapted the 0 also. So it's gonna be something. It's gonna be crazy. I know, Kendall. Right? You said you didn't like it.
I do not like it at all. I think it's complete nonsense, to be honest with you. I mean, I don't like it. I didn't like it a couple years ago when they changed the numbers. You got it's confusing. It's just not a good look. I'm old school, man. If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
What do you think, Walt? What do you think of these single digits, man? First and foremost,
I don't care. They just numbers. Like I don't want to be not calling Kendall a old fuddy duddy, but I don't want to be that guy. I don't want anything to change. It's not confusing. I was listening to a guy on the radio the other day complain about Oregon having too many color schemes. So to the point he felt like he doesn't know if he's watching Oregon or whoever. And it's like, first of all, you can tell if you look at the score. That'll tell you what it is. Second, if you follow enough college football, you're not that damn confused between who's playing. So, I mean, I understand some people just don't like things to change. 00 seems kind of goofy. I'm okay with 0. 00 seems kind of silly, but like I said, overall, I'm okay with it. Guys are, not just guys, but gals as well when it comes to their sports. Athletes are very close to their numbers. A lot of times it's symbolic to someone maybe close to them in some cases. Some guys have worn the same number since they were 5, 6, 7 years old. So, like I said, I don't have an issue with it.
Harv?
I don't agree with it, man. I'm like Kendall. I'm old school, man. It's the dumbest thing they could have ever brought up. A 0. My thing is, right, when you count, do you go 0, 1, 2? No, you start with 1. I don't believe in it, man. I think I'm with Kendall, man. I'm old school. You a linebacker, you wearing 50-something. You're a defensive back, you're wearing 20-something. That's just the way it is, man. I don't get it.
I blame the NBA because the NBA is the one that got rid of it, right? Because hey, if you were in high school or even junior high basketball, your numbers were with one hand, right? So that's the way it was going. But now you see 7s and all that crazy stuff in basketball. So whatever it is. But anyways, that's one of the rules that got approved. I'm going to go one by one, and some of them might be repetitive, but as we get down, I'll ask you guys to elaborate on those. So the second one was actually submitted by Los Angeles Chargers, a men's rule for Section 6, Article 3, Section 7, Article 4 to make an adjustment of the play clock following an instant replay reversal consistent with other timing rules. Whew. Okay. This was by Houston. This one was to expand the replay officials' jurisdiction to allow for review on failed fourth down attempts. Let me see here. This one was by the competition committee to change the definition of a launch to leaving one or both feet. Another one by the competition committee was to make the penalty for tripping a personal foul. We talked about that one. That one's going to be big, right? Because on that one, We saw the greatest of all time, Tom Brady, get into a couple of tripping situations. So that will be now 15 yards, and it's a personal. And if he actually can be ejected, right? And he could be ejected later on in the game.
That's going to be important, man, because if you get a personal foul and then you trip somebody, you're out of the game, technically.
We got Dwight Thrasher. He says, "Why not just start letting people pick negative numbers? Mine negative 21 was pick. I'll tell you this: that 21 when I was growing up, that 21 was popping, man. Everybody wanted 21, for there's certain reasons. 23, 21. I know Harvey, you had 9, right? That's your bread and butter. Let's go. Let's move it along here. To make the penalty of illegal. Okay, competition committee to make the penalty for illegally handling the ball forward consistent with other illegal acts such as illegal forward passes. On this one, we need a little bit more, I guess, context to it. But does that mean like pushing the ball forward?
Yeah, can't do
at
that.
The line. You know how some players would be sneaky and do. Or is this talking about like kind of what we were seeing Jalen Hurts and the Eagles do their little sneaking of the fourth down?
Yeah, like a quarterback sneak, and they would they would do that. Yeah.
They wouldn't give anybody an opportunity to get set.
Yeah,
pretty much.
The whole line would basically hold together and just go forward.
That is something more to look into. I know that was something that was going to be brought up because I know that Sean Payton said that he told George Blandino. I'm sorry if it's not George Blandino, but Mr. Blandino, right, former head of officiating, that if they didn't take that out, that's exactly what he was going to run every single play with Russell Wilson with the Broncos. Crazy. This one was by the competition committee was to make the penalty for illegal punts, drop kicks, or place kicks consistent with other legal acts such as illegal forward pass. And I think these next two are pretty big. These are pretty significant ones, right? And this is competition committee is to prevent the offense from benefiting by an extension of the half as a result of their foul. What do you guys think of that one?
That's a big deal to me, man, because sometimes some of them do it sometimes on purpose. Like, hey, just the time's running out, get an off whatever offensive penalty you got, and it extends the time to give you more time to run another play. So, I think it's a good rule at the end.
I agree there too with Harvey there. And a lot of these rule changes, they won't come into effect to what this year, whatnot. But I think that right there, like I said, I think that's big. A lot of these teams try to take advantage of a lot of it.
Yeah.
And teams will take advantage if there's an opening, they will. Well, what do you think about this one? This is the last one. Competition committee to clarify use of the helmet against an opponent by removing the butt, ram, spear language from Article 8 and incorporating those actions into impermissible use of the helmet.
Yeah, I think it's going to force guys back to more classical tackling, but the thing is, the athletes are so bigger, stronger, faster, more explosive now that you honestly can't tackle them the classical way that you would strategically tackle someone. So I'm kind of surprised that the owners were okay with this. I'm pretty sure there's something behind it. I understand in these meetings there's a lot of give and take, but this is a rule right here that's going to directly affect every single game on Sundays and Monday and Thursday. So it's going to be interesting because there's no way to really benefit. I mean, this is a situation where you could benefit in the first quarter and then have the game taken away from you in the fourth quarter with that same call. So, like I said, I'm surprised they were okay with it, but in general, when I went through all of these changes and some of these weren't changes, I just felt like they were trying to avoid slowing the game down. To me, this completely slows the game down. Completely. Slower than what it already is, man. And when you're talking about playing football at that speed with that type of caliber of athlete, you can't sanction how guys are going to tackle. Guys are trying to get guys down to the ground however they are. So I think it's going to come down to the discretion, the digression, not the digression. Which word am I trying to use, man? The discretion. It comes down to the discretion of that particular official on that play, man, because we've seen so many plays where it was obvious the defender was not trying to spear the quarterback or the running back or the tight end or the wide receiver, but with the angle that the receiver was already at, maybe he was ducking his head down, so maybe the defender had to also duck his head down to protect himself, and sometimes the helmet just comes in contact. It's part of the uniform. It happens. So it's going to be interesting to see how the league handles this moving forward because, man, you're going to have a whole lot of issues Tuesday morning, man. Like, these coaches and these GMs not going to be happy. And the league office is going to hear about it every Tuesday morning.
So this is my thing about it, right? And I don't think anybody's talking about it. I think it just got implemented with no really media hype on it. But if you go back to the Hamlin game, how Hamlin got hit, was it by T. Higgins?
Yes.
He got hit right in the heart with his helmet. If you saw that game. So maybe it's a little bit more than we think. So if you go back and watch the game, he literally got hit with his helmet. He kind of ducked and hit his heart with his helmet. So that might be a little bit more than what we think it is, in my opinion. I don't think anybody's talking about that.
Yeah.
Well, there was. I mean, it's definitely something to think about, right? I mean, I don't think that Higgins was doing it intentionally. You know, I think that was a bang bang kind of play, but yeah, for sure. I think that's why we see certain what was it? The roughing the passer review was not approved, right? Was there what else was not approved? Just before we move along.
I know the roughing the passer, for them to go over and review that after every call, that's not review. I think it was something else.
The other thing that wasn't approved was the lower seed getting home field advantage.
Yeah.
There you go.
Even though they have a better record than the divisional that wins the division. So that was kind of a bummer. But
that was a bummer. But like they say, you got to win your division to get that home field advantage, man. So let's talk about it.
Do y'all think pass interference should be a reviewable call?
No.
They tried it. They tried it. It didn't work. I think that's why they didn't push through with the roughing the passer one, which I think they should have looked at that one and at least whoever, because you know how they have eyes in the sky, right? Or that's what they call it. But they have somebody from somebody in the New York offices watching the game, and they should be able to call that down and say, "Hey, you need to pick that flag up. That wasn't roughing the passer." They should have implemented something along that line. But like Walt said, I think they are cautious of that. Maybe this could extend the games longer than what they need to be, right? I think.
I mean, it's also kind of hard to really sanction these injuries. You know, they put all of those efforts into fixing special teams, quote unquote, fixing special teams over the past 5+ years, and they've pretty much taken special teams out of the game, period. And that was pretty much one of the most game-changing parts of the game that we had forever. And they pretty much took that out. So it's like they're trying to sanction the game, but you really can't. You know, you really can't. If you want to be honest, like, we all played football at some point in time, man. Most of the injuries that you suffered were whiplash injuries. Like, if you're an offensive player and you're running across the field, even if you call yourself bracing to be hit, which people don't understand, like, you can brace yourself to be hit, but you're not really bracing yourself to be hit if you're also trying to play the football. It doesn't happen that way. When you're not ready to get hit, that's the worst injury you can suffer. Being blasted with a shoulder pad to the chest and having that neck jerk and whip back and then having your body crash and hit the ground is the worst injury you can have. Well, one of the worst injuries you can have. And it seems like they're just trying to blame everything on the crown of the helmet. Don't use the crown. Don't use the crown. And I understand guys need to get out of that because that's not how you tackle. That's how you damn near kill yourself, or you damn near kill a teammate in practice, or you almost kill a teammate. I mean, not teammate, but, an opponent on the field for that matter, man.
But I think that's why. Hey, well, I think
Yep.
that's why they took out the blindside hits, though. That's illegal.
That too.
That's
That
part
too.
of the reason as well. You know what I mean? So, and I see what Walt is saying, but to me, like, I think the NFL is going to get better. And this is why I say this. If you paid attention to the XFL and the NFL are working together. I hope everybody understands that. And what they're doing is, I think what's happening, Walt, to your credit, you're saying all those things. I think that's why they're doing the things they're doing in the XFL to see if it's going to work in the NFL. Hence the kickoff, right? I like that kickoff, in my opinion. So I don't know, man. We might see a lot of changes, but people need to pay attention to the XFL because I think that's the determining factor if they're going to change something or not.
I mean, rule number 1: keep your head in the swivel. I don't know if you guys. I mean, I learned the hard way on that one, man. I'll tell you that much right there. Well, Dwight Thresher said, I do think they need to do something about all the pass interference calls, especially in college. Defensive backs has a major disadvantage. Ooh, what do you guys think? Do they have a disadvantage?
Walt's ready. I already know. Kendall, I don't know about
Man,
Kendall.
I don't think so. And like I'm hard on corners, man. And I see too many corners do it. If you can play without your hands, you can play without your hands. If you have the feet, you have the feet. If you have the confidence to play the football, and that's the one thing that I believe makes the difference between good corners and great corners, or average corners and good corners. How confident are you as an athlete to be able to track a guy down and turn and continue to run and play the football? That's an issue. I'm pretty sure you guys as Cowboy fans, you guys have seen corners come through there that had zero ball skills whatsoever.
Really, Walt? What do you? Whoa,
No,
really?
I'm not bringing anybody up because the Lions, we've had our share. We've had our share too.
Lions.
I think every team in the league have had their share of guys you look at in practice, look in the game like, dude, like you really don't have any confidence at all to get your head around. And then when they get their head around, they all stumbling and falling backwards and they're looking awkward. So yeah, I don't, man. I think a lot of corners, for one, a lot of these guys go to these camps. They started these camps really early. So it's nothing like it was when we were younger, when we played. Same thing with the quarterback position. So I think a lot of these kids, they're more groomed now to play corner. That's why we see a situation with this year. We got what? When I said there's a possibility 7 corners could go in the first round, I really believed it. Like these dudes, corners are created now. A lot of these dudes been going to these camps, like I said, since they were 6, 7, 8, 9 years old. And they've been groomed for this, and they've been playing the position long enough. Some of them played wide receiver. But, I think the corner in this day and age, they're required to do more. They're not the same grab and hold and tug and cheat if you can get away with it corners that we loved in the 90s. Like, these guys are big-time athletes. They used to play receiver, used to play basketball. They know how to defend. They know how to move north and south, left and right. They know what they're doing. So I don't think it'll affect them that much. Now, for the guys who aren't as good, possibly.
Well,
And then the thing is, in college, when you draw a penalty, it's just 15 yards from that point. In the NFL, it's a spot foul. So I actually thought they might change that in the NFL at some point or whatnot. But it's a spot foul, NFL. You throw a deep bomb or whatnot. If it's a penalty, you get the ball there where the play took place at. In college, they just draw 15 yards from that previous spot.
at this rate, guys, is the NFL going to start incorporating high school type of football? I mean, that's the question, right? But it's all debatable. Last thing that was talked about was the sale of the Washington Commanders.
Man, did you really call them dudes really, really, Jerry? The Commodes?
It's an inside joke.
Well, I know. I know. I caught it. I know.
The Washington Commanders, formerly known, or the artists is formerly known as the Washington Redskins, right? I believe there's going to be another wave of meetings in May, and there should be some traction. But it does look like the team will be for sale. Looks like Daniel Snyder will not be an owner in the NFL now, which is surprising, right? I know,
No,
Walt, you had some feelings about that.
It's not surprising, but
Well, I mean,
you think it's a surprise, Jerry?
I thought it was going to be kind of hard to move, but I mean, it looks like they're going to go through
How
with
much
it.
longer you thought it was going to take them? Because they've been
Yeah,
kind of bumping heads for how many years now?
It feels like 5 seasons now.
it's been a long time.
It feels like 5, but I know that things have been heating up the last 2 seasons.
Yeah.
Emails and
Snyder. Look, listen, man. It's one of those things. Like, I don't want to get too much into it, but I'll tell you this.
Yeah.
I think they see a lot of emails, and they're like, their eyes are wide open, and they're like, yeah, you might need to sell there, guy. Like, it's time to go. So I think there's a lot more to it than we think. A lot more.
Oh, and just before we move on, teams will be allowed to play 2 games on a short week, right, Kendall? I believe.
Yes.
So yeah, there might be that, and there might be a little bit of pushback. So these are some of the changes to expect with this new 2023 season. Moving along,
you forgot one. You forgot one, Jerry.
Which one?
You got one that's really huge, man. Really huge for everybody out there. There's a lot of money involved in this. The sports books. They will now be allowed to operate in stadiums on game day.
Damn.
Which seems kind of unsavory, man. It does, man. But, man, can you imagine the crowds that's going to be down there at these stadiums now, man?
Yeah.
Damn.
At a Cowboys game? Let alone a Lions game.
Why does it have to be Cowboys every time, bro?
Yeah.
Well, I brought the Lions into, well, man, you know y'all bigger than us, man. Y'all a bigger brand than us, man.
I'm just saying, why don't you pick on the Eagles, man? You know?
It's Cowboys pick on day today.
I'm just saying, it's just the league to be the way they were towards, Calvin Ridley and some other players to be so two-faced. I think when it comes to how you handle gambling is terrible, man. It really is, because we're not children. We're all 4 grown adults, and our listeners are grown adults. We all understand that whenever there's money involved in something, there's some unsavory things going on. The more money involved and more hands involved, the higher the opportunity is for somebody to be on the take. And to me, it always just seemed really unsavory to have gambling going on like that inside the stadium, before the game, during the game. To be in bed with Vegas for the league for the longest has been kind of uneasy for me. But hey.
It is what it is, right?
Yeah.
So let's move along, right? Let me ask you guys a question. There's been some chatter being going around, and it looks like the NFL is expanding, and the expansion is going to be NFL Europe is going to be a part of the NFL. So I believe this has already been in the talks for a while. I believe it was actual Europe who asked the NFL, hey, we want our own division. So, guys, anybody want to go ahead and take lead, and then I can kind of clean it up?
You get it, Kendall.
Yeah, it's like they're trying to expand some teams to Europe, right? So that's going to be real interesting, whatnot. And like you said, appreciate Jerry. Goodell's been talking about it for a while. I'm thinking probably next 2 to 3 years, maybe we get some news on that. And I think that's gonna be interesting, because what team's gonna want to go into that division, or maybe they bring their own team.
Expansion draft, man. Expansion drafts are always fun, man. We haven't had one since what? Who was it? Tony Baselli? I think Baselli was the last, by the Houston Texans. So I just started thinking about a lot of stuff when that happened. I'm thinking, well, let's say they decided to add 4 teams. So, yep, you're looking at probably all 32 teams allocating maybe, 3 players? towards the expansion draft, maybe. Because they not, I mean, of course, they're going to build the roster through draft picks or whatnot and
Right.
free
Right.
agency, but they're going to have teams actually allocate players. So, I always find that fun. Always find it fun. It's been a long time since we had an expansion team in the league. Last time was when we got the 2 teams, actually. Unless, well, no, they really didn't consider the Tennessee Titans as an expansion team. But, yeah, I'm all for it, man. I'm all for the new stuff when it comes to football, man. I'm not an old fogey, Jerry. I'm for all the new stuff
Well,
as far as the NFL.
we did see Mike Florio and it was Peter King actually elaborate on it, right? And it's just that we've been seeing Commissioner Roger Goodell talk about this for the last couple of years. And the way it's going to work is they're going to get 2 teams from the AFC and they're going to put them into the NFC. And then they're going to bring down the actual 4 teams from Europe, right? Because 2 can play in Germany and 2 can play in London. They have NFL stadiums ready to go, ready to rock and roll. We've seen that side of Europe get turned up for NFL football. The thing that Peter King was saying was try to convince the 32 owners about making the pizza 36. What do you say? 36 slices, right? Or now they were used to getting X amount of money. Now the money's going to be allocated between 36 owners. I think if it does expand, I think at that point now NFL is global, no longer just an American institute. I think it's now a worldwide institute, and I think that you'll start to see the money just start flowing in. That I don't think it's going to be a problem. The only thing is what teams will get moved over into the NFC, and I believe it's going to be 6 divisions. That's the way it's going to work, right? 6 divisions of 6 teams. So, guys, this is something that the NFL is hoping to happen within 2 to 5 years. So, you're hearing it. You're hearing it first, of course. Of course, Roger Goodell and the Europe were the ones who first chirped about it. And then you've heard Peter King, but East West is the one that's covering it. Seeing what you guys think. Are you guys open to the expansion? Guys, what do you guys think? Dwight Thrasher says they are not allowed to sports betting in Texas, unfortunately. That is actually true. Well, I forgot about that.
I wouldn't know. I'm glad you guys knew.
Yeah, I forgot about that. That's actually a true statement. So, guys, anything else that you want to add in on about the expansion?
Yeah, to me, I think this is going to be really big. Really big. The only thing there's a lot of logistics that has to go into it. Honestly, I don't think it's happening very soon because you got to think about TV deals. TV deals, right? And where are we at with the CBA? When's the next CBA? Does that fall in line with the expansion teams? We're talking about the expansion draft like Walt talked about. We're talking about now you're adding another 4, 6 players depending on how many teams you're bringing in. So that expands now the round of the drafts. Do we go an extra round or an extra 2 rounds? Or do we just leave it the same and just add the teams to it? That's a lot of stuff, man. I mean, we're talking about our team's going to consistently want to travel to these teams on the other side of the globe. And if they are, what do the logistics look like? Are they staying there in that area and playing those games? And then coming back. I mean, there's just so much things. But to be honest with you, I mean, in Europe, the beer is bigger, which is a plus. I think their beers are like that big. That's the only thing I could think of. But I'm just saying, man, it's a lot. But at the end of the day, it's going to bring in a lot of money because you're talking about another sport in another side of the world. These people, I think they sell out every time they play over there. So I think it's only good for the NFL. Not only that, it's hard to make it in the NFL. And now you're talking about possibly another, 200 or 250 players added to a team, which makes it better for players to actually make a roster. So I think it's nothing but positives, but the logistic part is probably going to be a super nightmare for them.
The CBA is going to be the next CBA is in 2030. So just to kind of give you a heads up on that, but I think it's only a matter of time. If you do this, it's going to open the door for Mexico and Canada to start wanting their own teams too, right?
But how about the viewership? Like, those games over there start at 9 a.m.
9 a.m.
So, like, are we really getting up that early to watch those games? I don't watch any NFL, not the overseas games. I don't get up that early on Sundays to watch those
Well,
games.
that's going to give us all excuses to open a beer at 9 a.m, Walt.
Well, I'm getting ready for the game. Don't judge me. There's a game on somewhere. It's funny because I just wonder what are the ratings like for those overseas games on Sundays between the Giants and Jags. Or
yeah,
who else is it? It's always some silly matchup.
I don't know. I like it.
The Falcons and Colts or something.
So it says here, National Football NFL second international series game of 2022 season in Tottenham Hotspur Stadium reached a 5.5 million viewers across TV and digital platforms, a 55% year-over-year viewership increase on the New York Jets and Atlanta Falcons game from 2021. So that just gives you, I guess, a little bit of insight.
That's not bad. That's not bad.
American viewership?
It didn't clarify that.
I don't think it matters at that point.
Yeah, I mean, well, a lot of us don't believe the world is bigger than America, the United States. But there's a lot of people out here that do watch football, that watch NBA basketball and baseball as well. So,
well, shoot, we used to, when Ned was a part of East West. Ned was from Australia, I believe, and he would wake up at 8 o'clock, I think he says, and to go watch NFL. And he says the only team they would show was San Francisco 49ers. Hence, that's why he became a 49er fan, was because that's the only thing that they could get. But it just goes to show you that, yes, NFL is watched all over the world. Whew, finally, guys. We're almost at the finish line. Kendall, I need to hear from you, man. Joe Burrow, man. They say his extension is coming fast and furious. Now, just to give you guys a little bit of insight, right before we get a little bit into that, Deshaun Watson, I believe his contract is what every quarterback right now is trying to attain. I believe that's why Lamar Jackson, this is what he's looking for. Watson landed a fully guaranteed $230 million contract with Cleveland. Joe Burrow, what can you expect for Joe Burrow to get in his contract extension? Because I know the Bengals are trying to lock him up a long term, and it's time for him. And I want to hear this from everybody about you. You take first.
We know it's going to be some big numbers. It's going to be a big deal. We know that, and every year we hear about a team. Well, this is a record. Every year somebody's setting a record when they sign these huge deals. But the interesting part, and Burrow, he's worth it all. Really good quarterback, still young or whatnot. What is he? Probably 26 now. I think he came out a little older. Whatnot? He's about 26. But it's going to be big. It's going to pass Deshaun Watson. Anybody else? It's going to pass that. And then next year we hear somebody else set another record. The interesting thing about the Bengals is they pay him all that money. How they build a good team around him, because you still got to pay T. Higgins. Jamar Chase is coming up another 2 years probably. And they lost people in free agency on defense and whatnot, so they got to keep some of those key players that they have. So I think the interesting thing about the Bengals, they give him all that. They could, but be prepared to lose some players. But Burrow, he's worth every down. He's a really good quarterback. Jerry, I know you're a huge Joe Burrow fan or whatnot.
That's my guy.
Yeah, but it's gonna be a big contract. I think there's rumors it should be done by the start of regular season and whatnot. So I mean, that's big for the Bengals to go ahead and get it done.
Harv, what do you think? Or Walt, go ahead. Take over.
My question is there even really a rush to get it done? Because if you're Joe, you got Hurts out there, Philly's clearing money to pay him. You got Herbert, the Chargers are clearing money to have to pay him. So the domino effect is going to come. I don't think he's going to get a fully guaranteed. I think teams are kind of really steering away from that. I do see Joe probably somewhere around 5 years, probably a good close to 400, not close to 400, but close to 300, and a solid 180 guaranteed, probably putting him somewhere around maybe 50 mil a year. The fully guaranteed, I just don't see him coming no more, especially not from the Cincinnati Bengals, especially not from them. It wouldn't shock me if they played hardball with Joe a little bit just to agitate him. But like I said, it's going to be interesting because whoever the first guy is, whether Philly decides to take care of Hurts first or Justin gets taken care of by the Chargers first or Joe with Cincinnati, they're going to set, I think, a new market. So if Joe does sign first, I'm pretty sure Justin or even Hurts for that matter are going to feel like they got to kind of top him when it comes to the guaranteed money. So like I said, it's going to be interesting. I don't see, if you're Cincinnati, how you don't pay him what he deserves. I don't really attach the deserve word too much to guys when it comes to the money, but Joe, he's proven it. He's proven he deserves it. Considering what he came back from as a rookie to immediately lead that team with that offensive line to a Super Bowl and come within maybe a split second of finding Jamar Chase and winning the Super Bowl. So, and you know what he's done against the Kansas City Chiefs, the high level of success he's had against that type of organization at a young, early age. The writing's on the wall there. I think Joe's one of the special guys, and you got to go ahead and pay him.
Harv, how do the Bengals, handle this issue? Like, what kind of contract is fair where, it's a big contract, but it doesn't put the team in a what Kendall was saying, in a bad situation where they can't retain their players?
So I think what you're going to see is, because I think he's in his final year. This is the 4th year. Then they still have their 5-year option. So you're looking at 2 years. So technically it would be more of an extension. So this is why I think they're going to do it before the season. The reason they're going to do it before the season is because they want T. Higgins on the team. And so you got those last 2 years of Joe Burrow, and then you attach a 5-year, 30. I think it's going to be a 5-year, $300 million, 230 guaranteed. I think that's what it's going to look like. But I think you do it now to keep Higgins long term. And if you wait too long, you might end up losing T. Higgins. And I think all the players you'll lose, and I think that's why they're okay with losing Jesse Bates. They're fine with it. They just don't want to lose the weapons that Joe Burrow has now. So I think the reason they do it now is to work with those 2 years along with their 5-year extension and hopefully save some money to sign T. Higgins for at least 4 years and keep him, it might be voided maybe 3rd or 4th year or maybe release them, but they want him for 2 more years. And I think that's the biggest reason why they do it now.
You also did mention something about how teams can do it or place it. Can you elaborate a little bit more on that? What you're saying, which is an idea that maybe teams should incorporate?
So I think the biggest thing with these guys is that, you do a $230 million deal or a $300 million deal, but it's $230 guaranteed, but you still have 70 in that somewhere that they can still make depending on, hey, if I make it to the team roster, if I play this many games and all that extra stuff. Let's do away with all that, right? Let's just say, hey, it's upfront, it's guaranteed. This is how much is guaranteed, and this is how much it is every year. That way you don't have to go into trying to cut it into money and saving money. And I think you're going to retain a lot more players in that instance than actually lose players, especially for Joe Burrow, because let's be honest, will Joe Burrow play for $40 million if it's all guaranteed instead of 50 or 60?
That sounds very enticing. I think anybody.
I'm just saying.
I think anybody would take it.
So it's going to keep going higher, but I'm just saying that's something that might be happening here soon. But I'm a Walt 300. I think I'm looking at 300, 5 years, probably at 230 guaranteed.
Damn.
I don't know, man. When I look at Cincinnati and we compare them maybe to the Chiefs, who they've had some success against, the Chiefs, they're arrogant, but they're still intelligently arrogant. Like, they realize, okay, I have Patrick Mahomes, I have Travis Kelce. We had that one hiccup in the Super Bowl a couple years ago where we almost got our quarterback killed. We fixed that situation. We know they are the perfect storm. They have the head coach as well. They have a damn good front office as well. So they've kind of got the perfect storm, but like, we can't get it twisted. Like, the Chiefs have kept a solid defense. a solid opportunistic defense, slowly but surely rebuilding some things on the fly. Now the Bengals are different. Like, they don't pay anybody. So it's like at some point in time, you have to pay somebody on defense. You can't just keep drafting young guys, using them up within the first 4 years and then letting them walk. Like, you're not going to build a dynasty like that either. Look at the names the Chiefs got on defense right now. Like, they paid Chris Jones, they paid Clark, even though Clark had kind of been up and down since he's been there, but they took the assets that he got in the Tyreek Hill trade and they turned that into 3 guys, 3 first-round picks that are going to help them for the next 5, 6+ years. Are the Bengals that smart as an organization? Or are they just going to pay Joe Burrow, pay Jamar Chase a boatload of money in another 2 years, and then be stuck because you decide to pay Orlando Brown, but what happens when Orlando Brown outperforms his contract? Or it's time to pay Orlando Brown? Are you going to give the middle finger to your left tackle? Like, we don't really know. Like, Jesse Bates, I understand Jesse Bates just falls victim to playing the wrong position. He's a safety. He's a playmaking safety, but they weren't going to pay Jesse Bates what Jesse Bates probably should have gotten on the open market and what he eventually got from Atlanta. But they got Dax Hill, a guy they figure, okay, well, you know what? We'll just slide Jesse out, let him move, and we'll slide the young guy in and then use him up for 3 years and then let him walk when he outperforms his contract. They also let Von Bell go. So you let go both of your starting safeties, didn't you?
But this is the thing, Walt. You can't. They're not that type of defense, though. They're not that. They're about. You can say that, but they're not a star-studded defense where you're gonna pay these. You don't have to. They don't have that type of defense. And I go back to Bill Belichick. He does the same thing. Tell me, am I wrong, Kendall? Does he pay these dudes off top money?
Nope.
I mean, they don't.
But we also have a history of a long history of the New England way working.
They don't have to do that though with Joe Burrow. They just have to be a good defense. They don't have to pay these top players.
I mean, we'll see.
Top money.
I mean, this is a different team going into 2023. Though.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, both safeties are gone. Mixon is probably gone. Didn't P. Ryan leave as well? Samaje P. Ryan? Yeah.
Yeah, so this is my thing, though. The defense has always been underrated. And they're always finishing top 15, if I'm not mistaken.
They're opportunistic.
And nobody talks about them.
They're opportunistic.
I'm just saying.
How many interceptions did Jesse Bates have over the last 2 years?
It doesn't matter, though.
Those are game-changing. Those are game-changing plays.
Yeah, but they're not a defense where you're like, oh my God, I have to plan against this guy. Oh my God, I have to plan against this other guy. None of them are that. They're not those guys. That's what I'm trying to explain to you. None of them are. You're like, I have to scheme against these guys.
Hendrickson was.
And they have been to the AFC Championship and they went to the Super Bowl. They're not that type of defense. You don't have to pay top guys on that defense, in my opinion. That's just my opinion. I mean, I'm just saying.
I see it, but it's different now because this isn't the same team. Like, if we're basing it off of what we've seen the past couple of years, sure. But when you lose both of your starting safeties plus a few other guys on that defense, I'm just saying they haven't been successful enough for a long enough period of time for me to give them the credit that I can give or the cachet that I can give the Chiefs or that I can give the Patriots. They're still the Bengals at the end of the day, and they don't pay anybody. That's what I keep going back to is like, if you're the Bengals, you can just feel like, well, all I need is Joe Burrow. I can guarantee you the Chiefs are intelligent enough to understand that, no, all they don't need is Patrick Mahomes. Like, they need a lot more around him. So are the Chiefs just arrogant enough to not pay anybody? No, they're not. They pay people. The good teams find a way to pay people, unless you're just strapped with a Hall of Fame quarterback and a Hall of Fame coach and a system that everybody believes in for almost 20 years. But outside of that, the average team isn't built like that. The Chiefs have it going on right now because they have the perfect storm. I just haven't seen enough, and I love the Bengals. But I just haven't seen enough from that organization for me to just feel like they're going to thumb their nose at all their other good players and just pay one guy. Because like I said, they're going to have to pay Chase too. Do you pay Chase and Higgins?
Yes.
I'll let Kendall finish.
Because I'm pretty sure we understand Chase is the guy. We like T. Higgins. I like T. Higgins as well, but Chase is the guy.
He is the guy.
I agree with Harvey there. What he said with the Bengals, they don't have no stars on defense, so they don't really have to worry about paying. And then right there, they can just let them walk, and they worry about the offense. And to your question, I think they're going to pay Chase, and I think they still got Higgins for another year or two. I think they got right. They got guys right for another couple of years or whatnot. And who knows? They might end up just paying everybody. Sometimes team they know they're going to win with the Bengals, or they know they'll just take less or whatnot. So we'll see.
No, get me wrong. It makes sense because they're so close. Like the Bengals window is wide open. Young quarterback, young head coach, young core players. So their window's wide open. But how often do we see the receiver get paid like that too on a good team? Like the Chiefs said, hey, we want to pay you, we like you, but we don't like you as much as the Miami Dolphins like you.
Right.
and then they went ahead and people looked at the Chiefs as if, oh, they let a receiver go. The really good organizations don't value the receivers like that as much, especially if they have that guy under center. So, and we've had that discussion about the Chiefs, man. You can make the argument that if you swap out Kelsey for Hill, that team doesn't even win the Super Bowl last year because Kelsey is that big of an important asset to him. So, I don't know, man. I don't want to keep leaning back on the Bengals being the Bengals, but like I said, they still got to prove it. They still got to prove it because, as you guys mentioned, they don't have anybody but a bunch of names on defense. So you're going to invest all your money in the offense. And how far is that going to get you? Because at some point in time, you got to stop some people too. Hey.
One thing is for sure. The Bengals are no longer the Bungles. Bobby Drake, 313. Is there any evidence that the Bengals will financially compete for a chip?
We'll find out soon. We'll find out soon.
These three guys are giving them the benefit of the doubt because they got Joe Cool. They had Carson also.
No. I didn't think Carson was that good. Carson was that good. That's just my opinion. You're saying Carson and Joe Burrow are the same.
I'm saying they both were number one overall picks.
You can't say that, though.
They're both Heisman Trophy winners, weren't they?
No. I wasn't like, oh, my God, Carson Palmer. No, I was like, okay, he's okay.
Well, I thought Carson was pretty good.
When Joe Burrow came in the league, I knew. There's a difference between you knowing and not knowing. I knew Joe Burrow was that dude the minute he fucking stepped on that red carpet.
But I mean, if we go back to when Carson was in college, go back to USC Carson had the hype.
Okay.
He had the hype coming out of high school. Carson had the hype coming out of college. I don't
even remember about Carson's draft type.
I don't remember
crazy,
him.
Jerry.
I wasn't like, oh my God.
You crazy, Jerry.
He's a generational player.
No, he was a guy. Remember, Carson was a guy who he was the big time recruit coming out of college. He kind of struggled those first couple years at USC, then he finally put everything together. So he was a guy who the league knew coming out of high school, and okay, this guy, he's big time, he's talented, he finally put it all together. He's the number one overall pick. Because remember, that was the year where it was kind of rivaling with him and Byron Leftwich. But at the end of the day, he surpassed Byron Leftwich, and Carson became the number one overall pick. But I'm not saying he's better than Joe Burrow. But we're not gonna act like Carson didn't have some big time years now.
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying it just did. Just like Will Levis.
He surpassed him.
I'm just saying it was like the Will Levis thing. Everybody's hyping him up and they're like, "Oh my God!" I'm like, I don't see it. I don't see it.
Carson and Levis.
It's like Jamarcus Russell. Was it Jamarcus Russell for the Raiders? Same thing.
Yeah.
Oh, he's big. I didn't like him. I was like, I don't like him. Whatever.
Bobby Drake says Carson Palmer was highly hyped. And it's almost certain that the Bengals will not pay most of the important players, and there will be a disappointment load on Burrow. But I will tell you this, with Joe Burrow, though, he has been able to, I mean, without Jamar Chase, he took him to the Super Bowl, and without an offensive line too. And that defense was still not stellar. It wasn't what it is now. So I'll tell you this.
Chase was there for the Super Bowl, though. Wasn't? Yeah, all of those guys were there for the Super Bowl.
He was hurt though for a while, I believe, if I'm not mistaken.
In the playoffs, I thought Chase was there for the entire playoff run. He may have
Chase-
had. I think he had some
Chase was-
injuries during the regular season.
Yeah.
Oh, you
Chase
know what?
played in-
That was this year.
Yeah, this
Chase
year's
was
Jamar.
hurt.
Yeah.
Chase was not playing. Chase
He
was
had-
hurt
came-
this year.
He came
No,
back in
during the
the
regular
playoffs.
season, he had a
Yeah.
stretch. Yeah.
Yeah.
But still, Joe Burrow has been able to do some things that many teams have. You know, they're trying to build their teams for the draft. They're trying to do these things. You know, Joe Burrow is definitely a special individual. I think that it is time to get him paid. I think there's a big difference between him and Carson Palmer. I think that's why the Bengals are no longer the Bungles. But for whatever it is, I think that this deal should get done first, because you never want to let the market set itself. Because if the market sets, then you're gonna have to outdo the last person, and that's just what it is. Either you're first or you're last, and if you're last, you're gonna pay more. So that's it for us, guys. Can you believe that we were able to talk about the new rule changes? Of course, a change of ownership with the Commodes, the Washington Commodes to be exact. I mean Washington Commanders. My bad.
Yes, sir.
An expansion. NFL is expanding, right? We're gonna get 2 teams from the AFC going to the NFC, and we're gonna have 6 divisions of 6 teams. And then, of course, that's 2 to 5 years from now. And of course, Joe Burrow's extension. Is he worth it? Yes, he is. Right. That's the one thing we come to it. Everybody, throw in your plugs before we get off and sign off for the day. But go ahead and throw your plugs in there.
Yes, sir. You can find me on Ken's Pats Talk, Patriots Podcast. You like Patriots Talk? Come on over and subscribe to the YouTube. Ken's is KEN_S Pats Talk. It's right down at the bottom.
You can
Well,
find me
go
on YouTube. Yep, you can find me on YouTube for all your Detroit Lions news. That's Detroit Lions Avenue. YouTube handle at the Av Lions.
Hey,
I have
but also you have that your draft content too.
Oh yeah, yep.
He don't- he-
East West
he don't-
Football Network. Well, East West, East West Football.
He don't like the. I'm gonna keep saying the Stringer Report, but whatever. I have a special intro. Hit the button, Jerry. How about them Cowboys, real quick? How about this? Hey, you already know, man. You already know the Cowboys cast on YouTube. Say what you want, Walt. You Cowboys,
Hey.
The Cowboys cast on YouTube, Twitter. Find us. Hey, man, we keep it real.
Man, all
we
I
do.
was gonna say was that audio sound kind of old, man. That audio sound kind of grainy, man.
Yeah,
Sound like it
okay.
might have been recorded with one of those handheld recorders or something. Man.
Hey, they didn't have HD when Super Bowl was going around. For the Cowboys. I will say this: make sure subscribe. Also here to the East West Football. I mean, the subscribe button should be right underneath Walter Stringer. It doesn't cost you much to hit the subscribe button. Of course, share it if you like the content. Of course, we're on all social media platforms. Follow us there. We also have our website, eastwestfootball.com. You can find Walter Stringer's draft profiles. You got Philip Smith draft profiles. You have, oh my gosh, it's a plethora of draft profiles. And then, of course, coming soon, Walt will have his mock draft ready to go. And that's it for us, man. Thank you all for tuning in. Until next, when should we be live? I believe Tuesday.
Tuesday.
Have a good